Welcome back, everyone. Today we're diving into a topic that's probably on a lot of your minds as you think about securing your financial future. Gold IRAs.
It's a hot one.
It really is. And to help us unearth all the need-to-know info, we're digging into Gold IRA Eligibility Criteria 2024 from Gold IRA Blueprint.
Sounds good.
And get this, not just any old gold coin will do when it comes to your retirement fund. There are specific types of gold that the IRS deems worthy, like the American Gold Eagle. We'll unpack exactly why that is and what it means for you.
Definitely important to understand the rules of the game.
Absolutely. Wouldn't want any surprises come tax season. So let's start with the basics, shall we? What exactly makes Gold IRA eligible? It's got to be more complicated than just liking the way it looks, right?
Right, you can't just throw any gold trinket in there. Think of it like a recipe. You can't just swap out ingredients and expect the same result.
Yeah.
The IRS has specific criteria. They're looking at things like gold purity, the fineness and the weight of the gold. It's not just about the gold itself, but the form it takes too.
So a gold bar from Fort Knox might pass the test, but my old class ring probably wouldn't stand a chance.
Exactly. We're talking about specific coins and bars that meet some pretty stringent requirements, like that American Gold Eagle we mentioned. It has to be minted by the U.S. Mint with a fineness of 0.9999,
Which basically means...
which basically means it's 99.99% pure gold. The IRS means business.
Wow, they're really checking the carat count on this. Okay,
Mhm.
so let's say we've got a coin that ticks all the IRS boxes. Are all IRA-eligible gold coins created equal when it comes to investment potential?
Good question. Just like with stocks, some gold assets are going to be more highly sought after than others. Think about the Canadian gold maple leaf, another popular choice for IRAs. It often has a higher premium.
Why is that?
It's known for its quality and security features.
So it's not just about meeting the bare minimum, but understanding the nuances within the world of IRA-eligible gold to make the smartest investment choices.
Exactly. That's where doing your homework really pays off. Knowing these details can be the difference between an okay investment and one that really shines.
And nobody wants a dull investment, right? Okay, so before we all run off to find the shiniest gold coin, let's get practical. What are some key things someone needs to think about before jumping headfirst into a gold IRA?
Well, first things first, what are your overall retirement goals? Are you aiming for maximum growth, or are you more interested in protecting what you've saved?
Right, because gold's not a magic bullet. Right.
Exactly. It can play a role in both, but understanding your priorities is key.
Because gold isn't going to be that quick path to riches, is it?
It's a piece of the puzzle. And like with any good strategy, diversification is key.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Break that down. What makes gold such a good tool for diversification, especially when we're talking about retirement?
Well, gold has this interesting relationship with traditional assets like stocks and bonds. It often moves inversely to the stock market.
So when the market takes a dip, like it did back in '08, what happens?
Gold tends to hold its value, sometimes even increases. It's like a buffer for your portfolio.
So it's all about balance. When one part of your portfolio might be down, gold could be holding steady or even going up. That could offer some peace of mind during uncertain times.
Absolutely, and that's a big reason people are drawn to gold as they get closer to retirement.
Especially if you're worried about those economic storms. Makes sense.
It can provide a sense of stability,
Right.
security, especially when the market is being volatile.
That's huge, especially when you're talking about your nest egg. Now, I imagine there's a right way and a wrong way to actually add gold to your IRA. It can't be as simple as walking into a gold dealer and saying, give me all your IRS-approved gold.
You'd think, wouldn't you? But no, it's not that simple. You've hit on a really important point there. Choosing the right source for your IRA-eligible gold is critical.
So no random websites or anything?
You want to be careful. While there are reputable online dealers, it's generally better to work directly with a well-established precious metals dealer or firm that really specializes in IRA-approved gold. They can guide you toward reputable sources, make sure the gold you're buying meets those IRS requirements.
So it's all about that chain of trust, making sure everything is above board.
Exactly. Transparency is key when you're dealing with something as important as your retirement savings. Plus, remember, this gold isn't going straight into your safe at home.
Oh, right. The IRS probably has something to say about that. Can't just keep my IRA-approved gold bars under my mattress, can I?
Not quite.
Yeah.
The IRS wants that gold stored in an approved depository, a secure vault. This helps ensure the gold's security, its purity, and makes reporting to the IRS much smoother.
Okay, so my gold is safely tucked away in a secure vault. What happens next? Do I just wait for retirement to roll around and hope for the best?
That's the thing about a gold IRA, it's a long game. You benefit from the potential growth in the value of gold.
So like fine wine, it gets better with age.
You could say that. And as we discussed, gold historically acts as a hedge against inflation and economic uncertainty, potentially providing some stability, especially during market ups and downs.
It's like having that trusty umbrella. You might not need it right away, but you're glad you have it if the weather takes a turn.
Exactly. And you hope you won't need it, but it's there if things get stormy.
Okay, we've covered a lot about the how-to of gold IRAs. Let's zoom out for a sec and talk about the why. Why are people adding gold to their retirement plans? It's got to be more than just liking shiny things, right?
It goes way beyond that. For centuries, gold has been a store of value. It's tangible, it's finite. And unlike that cash in your wallet, you can't just print more of it.
So it's like a piece of history.
Exactly. And in today's world, with worries about inflation, global uncertainty, that sense of security, gold offers. More appealing than ever.
Especially when you're thinking about your financial future.
Exactly. Gold offers that tangible security that many find reassuring, especially when it comes to their retirement nest egg. It's a way to diversify and potentially reduce risk in a way that stocks and bonds can't always achieve.
That makes sense. Now, before we move on to the potential downsides, because let's be real, no investment is perfect, is there anything else our listeners should be thinking about when it comes to gold IRAs? Any other nuggets of wisdom from our Gold IRA Eligibility Criteria 2024 guide?
Oh, absolutely. They highlight some points people often overlook. One crucial aspect is understanding the fees involved with gold IRAs.
Right, because nothing in life is truly free, especially when it comes to investing.
Exactly. Just like with any investment account, there are costs to consider. With a gold IRA, you'll typically have fees for setting up the account, fees for storing the gold in that secure vault we talked about, and possibly management fees if you're working with a custodian or a financial advisor.
So those are definitely things to factor into your game plan.
Absolutely. You want to make sure they work with your budget and your long-term goals.
It's like shopping for anything else. You want to make sure you're getting the best deal, especially when it comes to your retirement.
Exactly. And speaking of things to be aware of, it's important to address the potential downsides of gold IRAs. Like any investment, it's not without its risks.
That's the perfect segue to our next section. We've covered a lot of positive ground here, but it's crucial to go into this with eyes wide open. So, after a quick break, we'll delve into the potential risks and drawbacks of gold IRAs. Stay with us.
Okay, so self-directed IRA sounds like you're calling the shots on your investments. What's that look like in real life?
Basically, it gives you a lot more control over your investment choices. You're not stuck with just the typical stocks, bonds, mutual funds.
Who are talking outside the box?
Exactly. You could invest in real estate, precious metals, and of course, our focus today, gold.
I like the sound of that choosing your own adventure when it comes to retirement. But more flexibility probably means more responsibility, right?
That's the trade-off. You're in the driver's seat, which can be great, but it does mean you need to be comfortable with the research, making the decisions. Makes sense. And that's where having a trusted guide could come in handy, right? Someone who knows the ins and outs of self-directed IRAs.
Exactly. You typically work with a custodian who specializes in self-directed IRAs. They're like your facilitator, make sure you follow all the IRS rules, handling the administrative side of things.
Got it. So we've got the roadmap, those all-important IRS guidelines, and our trusty guide, the custodian. But what about actually getting the gold? Are we talking online marketplaces, going to a physical dealer, or something else entirely?
Good question. You definitely want to be careful here. While there are some reputable online dealers, it's usually recommended to work directly with a well-established precious metals dealer or a firm that specializes in IRA-approved gold.
So someone who really knows their stuff.
Exactly. They can point you in the right direction, make sure the gold you're buying meets those stringent IRS requirements we talked about.
Right. I got to make sure everything is legit.
Absolutely. Transparency is key. Remember, this gold isn't going straight into your safe at home. There are specific storage requirements for gold in an IRA.
Right. Can't just stash my IRA gold bars under the mattress.
Afraid not. The IRS requires that gold held in an IRA be stored in an approved depository. A secure vault, basically.
Okay. Makes sense, keeps everything safe and sound.
Exactly. It helps ensure the security, the purity of the gold, and it makes reporting to the IRS much simpler.
So let's say my gold is all settled into its secure vault. What happens next? Is it just a waiting game until retirement?
That's the beauty of a gold IRA. You're playing the long game. You benefit from the potential appreciation of the gold over time.
So a bit like fine wine gets better with age.
You could say that. As we discussed, gold has historically been a hedge against inflation, against economic uncertainty. It can offer some stability, especially when the market gets jumpy.
It's like that reliable friend, always there when you need them.
Exactly.
Right.
And you hope you don't need it, but you're glad you have it if things get rough.
Okay, we've talked a lot about the how-to of gold IRAs, but let's zoom out for a second, talk about the why. Why are people so drawn to the idea of having gold as part of their retirement plan?
It's a question a lot of people have. Gold has been a store of value for centuries. It's tangible, it's finite, and unlike the money in your bank account, they can't just print more of it.
So there's a realness to it, a history.
Exactly. And especially in today's world, with concerns about inflation, geopolitical uncertainty, that feeling of security that gold offers, it's really appealing to folks.
Especially when you're talking about your financial future.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Gold offers a tangible form of security that people find really reassuring, especially for their retirement nest egg. It allows them to diversify, potentially lower their risk in a way that stocks and bonds sometimes can't.
I can see the appeal. Now, before we jump into the potential downsides, because like anything else, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Anything else our listeners should keep in mind about gold IRAs? Anything else important from our Gold IRA Eligibility Criteria 2024 guide?
They make a great point about fees, which are often overlooked.
Right, gotta pay to play, as they say.
Exactly. Just like with any investment account, there are costs. With gold IRAs, you'll usually have fees for setting up the account, storage fees for that secure vault we discussed, and possibly even management fees if you're working with a custodian or an advisor.
Those can definitely add up.
They can. It's important to factor them into your overall investment plan. Make sure they work for your budget and your long-term goals.
It's like anything else you're shopping for, you want to make sure you're getting a good deal, especially when it comes to your retirement.
Exactly. And it's also important to touch on the potential downsides of gold IRAs. As with any investment, there are risks.
And that's a great transition to our next section. We've painted a pretty rosy picture so far, but it's important to go into this with your eyes wide open. So after a quick break, we'll dive into the potential risks and drawbacks associated with gold IRAs. Don't go anywhere. And we're back, ready to take a look at the other side of the coin, so to speak, because gold IRAs aren't all sunshine and rainbows, right?
Right. There are definitely some things to consider before jumping in.
Okay, so first up on the potential downside list, what about growth potential? I always hear gold described as more of a safe haven than a growth engine. What's the deal there?
That's a really good point. While gold has a solid track record of holding its value, it's not known for explosive growth like you might see with some stocks or real estate.
So if someone is looking for those double-digit returns you hear about in the tech world,
Gold's probably not going to be their ticket to quick riches. It tends to appreciate more gradually, more of a slow and steady wins the race kind of investment.
okay, so slow and steady, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I'm guessing there are certain economic climates where gold might not be the best bet.
You're right. One thing to consider is deflation.
Deflation, okay. So unlike inflation, where prices are going up and your dollar isn't stretching as far,
Exactly. Deflation is when prices are actually falling.
which on the surface almost sounds like a good thing, right?
It might seem that way. Less expensive groceries, more affordable vacations.
Sign me up.
But deflation can actually really hurt economic growth. People postpone purchases, businesses struggle, and investments can lose value. Unfortunately, gold doesn't necessarily thrive in that environment either.
So not immune to a deflationary spiral.
Exactly. So it's important to think about the bigger economic picture and your investment time frame. Gold is really a long-term strategy.
Got it. So more of a marathon runner than a sprinter.
Exactly. Now, another potential downside to be aware of is market manipulation.
Okay, that sounds a little shady. What does market manipulation even mean in the gold world?
Well, because gold is traded globally, its price can be influenced by big institutions or even governments if they decide to buy or sell large amounts. This can create some artificial price swings.
So it's not always a true reflection of how gold is actually performing.
Right. And while it might not totally derail your long-term strategy, those swings can be a little unsettling if you're not prepared for them.
So stay informed, don't panic.
Exactly. Remember, knowledge is key.
Love it. And speaking of things that are key, let's circle back to those fees associated with gold IRAs. Those can really sneak up on you, can't they?
I can. Fees are just part of the game with any investment, but they can be noticeable with gold IRAs.
So break it down. What kind of fees are we talking about here?
You've got your account setup fees, Storage fees for that high security vault we talked about,
Yeah.
and then potentially management fees if you're working with a custodian or an advisor.
Definitely something to factor in because those fees can eat into your returns.
Absolutely. It's really important to do your research, compare fees from different providers, and make sure you're comfortable with the cost before diving in.
So important because at the end of the day, this is your retirement we're talking about. All right, as we wrap up our Gold IRA deep dive, what are some key takeaways our listeners should keep in mind?
Well, first and foremost, remember a gold IRA, just like any investment, has its pros and cons. It's not a guaranteed path to riches, but it's also not something to be afraid of.
It's one tool in your retirement toolbox.
Exactly. And the key is to understand if it's the right tool for you. If you're thinking about a gold IRA, research is your best friend.
Do your homework.
Exactly. Understand how gold fits into your overall retirement goals, your risk tolerance, and your investment timeline.
And don't be afraid to phone a friend, right? Get some guidance from a trusted financial advisor.
Couldn't agree more. An advisor can help you understand all the ins and outs, compare your options, and make sure you're making the right call for your financial future.
This has been fantastic. We've covered so much ground today on gold IRAs, everything from what makes gold IRA eligible to the potential benefits and those important risks to keep in mind.
My pleasure to be here.
And to all our listeners, thank you for joining us on this Gold IRA deep dive. We hope you're feeling a little more informed and ready to tackle your retirement planning journey. Remember, knowledge is power, and the more you know, the better decisions you can make for your financial future. Until next time, happy investing, everyone.